goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my soul.
Hey guys, before we get into the brand new NintenDIY, of course I have to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community where you can learn just about anything, ranging from thousands of classes such as lifestyle, photography, graphic design, and of course my personal favorite, fine art. I highly recommend that you guys check out YouTube Success, Build an Authentic Channel That's Worth the Follow by 𝘚𝘃𝘃𝘃𝘃𝑒𝑙. It's helped me so much when it comes to my DIY videos here on YouTube. So if you need any tips or tricks, I highly recommend that you guys check out Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to use the link down below in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, and after that, it's only $10 a month. So again, huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video and many other videos on my channel. I really do appreciate it, and let's jump right into the brand new NintenDIY. Okay guys, the NintenDIY today that I'll be teaching you is how to make the Arceus Pokeball from Pokemon Legends. Let me know in the comments below if you will be playing that game once it comes out. This is a very simple NintenDIY, and it depends on what type of Pokeball you plan on making. Of course, today, like I said, we are making the Arceus Pokeball, and all materials will be listed down below in the description. And if you plan on making the Arceus Pokeball, the coolest thing is that this will be solid wood. So you don't have to do anything with the bottom of the wood. You can actually keep it the way it is. Feel free to make all the other different types of Pokeballs, and you can actually display all of them in your home. The finished Arceus ball is definitely darker at the bottom because I actually resined the entire thing. You don't have to resin this Pokeball, but I will put the resin down below in the description. There's other ways that you can conceal this Pokeball if you want to. The clay that I'll be using is called 𝘂𝘧𝘧𝘪𝘣𝘬, and it's a two-part resin. You have the clay and then the hardener. It's really easy to work with, and then it dries like solid concrete. So I made two different Arceus Pokeballs in testing out what I like the most. You can either add those dots that you see in the middle, or you can just paint those on. It's totally up to you. Just keep in mind it's very tedious when you put the dots around the middle. Again, if you want to be as accurate as possible, definitely use a lot of reference pictures. So when it came to making the lip of the Pokeball, I knew that I had to use something sturdier than just clay. So I grabbed thin sheets of metal and metal cutting shears, started to actually cut out the lip. You can definitely do it this way, or you can use clay. I just really wanted this Arceus Pokeball to last as long as possible. Make sure to use as many reference pictures to make sure that that lip is as accurate as possible. You don't want it to be too small or too big. When it comes to working with this clay, again, it takes about 24 hours for it to completely cure. So sometimes I'll work on one portion of the Pokeball and then let that portion cure and then work on the rest of the Pokeball the next day. So you can definitely do that. I highly recommend that you take your time, because the more time you put into this Arceus Pokeball, the better it's gonna look. So here I'm actually using a pin and creating that line that you see at the top of where the smoke comes out. Again, this is the Arceus Pokeball, and it's supposed to be one of the first Pokeballs ever. So make sure that you have all the fine details added. And again, you can wait for this to dry and cure for 24 hours and then work on the next portion of the Pokeball. That's why it's important to be very patient. I know a lot of you guys will not have the tools that I have here at my house, but definitely look around to see if there's any other tools that you can use in your home. It might be weird, but there's a lot of things that you can find in your home that will produce the same accurate depictions in the clay. The next day, I actually waited for all the clay to dry, and then I sanded down those parts that were dry. Once I sanded down everything and pretty much everything was the way I wanted it to, I continued working on the Pokeball. I added the little divots that were on the top, and then today I'll also be adding the ring that goes around the Pokeball too. This specific step in the NintenDIY, we'll be working with the X-Acto really closely, so please, if you're not of age, ask your older brother, sister, mom, or dad to help you out. The X-Acto is very sharp, so please be very, very careful. The next step in this NintenDIY is creating that ring that goes around the middle, and it's very easy to create these rings. All you're really doing is grabbing clay, rolling that out, flattening it evenly, and then grabbing your X-Acto and creating those fine edges. You want to make sure that each edge is actually parallel to each other. Don't worry if it's not even or if the edge is kind of flat, because you can actually go ahead with your X-Acto back in onto the clay and even everything out. Once you've merged all the clay and you've cut off any excess, it's time to go ahead and add those fine details. You can super glue the lip onto the middle of the Pokeball, and afterwards you want to make sure that you apply pressure enough for it to hold. Once the super glue has completely dried, it's time to grab some clay and then add that last button that you see in the middle on top of that metal plate. It's going to reinforce that metal plate onto the Pokeball so it doesn't fall off. Go ahead and grab your X-Acto and clean off any of the edges, making sure to add any fine details as seen in reference pictures. The hardest part about making this NintenDIY is creating that ring that wraps around the entire Pokeball. So if you want, go ahead and feel free to grab a pencil and actually draw out that line. It'll help you so much when it comes to making sure this is as accurate as possible. We will be repeating the step that we did when it came to making the ring that's wrapping around the middle. And so of course, grab your clay, flatten that out evenly, and then with your X-Acto, make sure that you make clean edges. The most important thing is making sure that those edges are parallel to each other. In the end, it just makes it easier on you, but don't worry if it isn't. Grab your X-Acto and even out those edges once it's on the Pokeball. To make it even easier on you, if you wanted, you can use water to smooth out the surface. That way you don't have to sand as much. So as you can see, I'm really fixing those edges and making sure that they are sharp and even. It's a very delicate process, so please take your time. Otherwise, if you do mess up with the clay, you might have to rewrap the clay around the Pokeball. So I really advise that you take your time, or if you want, you can go ahead and wait for the clay to harden and then go in the next day and use the X-Acto to cut pieces off too. This is what the Arceus Pokeball looks like before I even start to paint. Everything is sanded down. I pretty much like how it looks, so I'm going to go ahead and add color to this. Before I spray paint any of those parts silver, I want to cover the bottom, especially the bottom of the Pokeball, so that no paint goes on there. If paint happens to land at the bottom of the Pokeball, don't worry, you can sand that off and start with a clean slate. So as you can see, I am using yellow painter's tape to cover everything at the bottom of the Pokeball. You want to make sure that you cover those edges. Any of exposed wood that is showing, you want to make sure that you cover that, because again, the bottom of the Arceus Pokeball is all wood. Instead of painting the silver onto the Pokeball, I decided to go with a spray because it goes on so much better than painting on the layers. So I recommend that if you don't have an airbrush gun, definitely go to your local craft store and grab a small can of metallic spray paint. It works so much better. Once again, we are making the Arceus Pokeball, but feel free to make all the other different types of Pokeball. I just thought that these wooden balls worked perfectly because the Arceus Pokeball looks like it's made out of solid wood. It is an all natural, and that's what I love about this NintenDIY. The last step when it comes to making the Arceus Pokeball is really just the fine details, and just keep in mind that this Arceus Pokeball is supposed to be one of the oldest Pokeballs in the Pokemon series, so you want to make sure that you maybe even perhaps want to weather this a little bit, make it look really old. It's up to you, but put time and effort into the painting. Make sure that you have enough layers and that you wait for each layer to completely dry before you add another, because really in the end, it's going to look absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the support, guys. If you happen to make this NintenDIY or any NintenDIY on my channel, definitely share it with me on my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All those links will be down below in the description. Do not forget to share this video with all the other Pokemon fans. Don't forget to like this video and, more importantly, subscribe. See you next time, guys.